Good morning. Welcome to the Celtic Way Morning Briefing Live. It's Monday. What date is it, Ryan? The 17th of June. There we go. How are we? Good weekend. We won't mention Scotland, shall we? Well, we might in a minute, but that's neither here nor there. I'm Tony Haggerty at Haggerty10 on the X and Twitter handle. I'm joined by Ryan McGinley at the Ryan McGinley. Ryan, how you doing? You all right?
Things are good, yeah. Enjoying the football bar. The false start that happened on Friday night, unfortunately. Ever since the Saturday afternoon games, I've really enjoyed most games. That it's been a really good tournament thus far. Disappointing with the way Scotland played and the end result, but really good opposition they were playing against. All focus is on Wednesday for Scotland and especially Celtic's boys in the Scotland team against Switzerland. It's going to be a tough one. Watch them on Saturday as well. But plenty to discuss in the Celtic world as well. So, yeah, delighted to be on, delighted to be back on a Monday talking about Celtic and talking about everything to do with them.
Yes, indeed. And we say thank you to our sponsors, MPH Group and Weissman Boilers, for sponsoring the pod. And if you were involved in the weekend stuff, hopefully you got something out of it if you went to see their new showroom in Fife and Dunfermline. Hope you enjoyed that, guys. But we say thank you to them for continued sponsorship of the pod. And as you see at the bottom, if you subscribe to the Celtic Way website, it costs you £4 for 4 months for top quality journalism covering the club you love. Visit www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. Now, Ryan, I wanted to start a bit of sad news for Celtic at the weekend, and it emerged that John Keane had died. Now, John was a vital part of the new Celtic when Fergus McCann took over. It was John who paid £1 million to keep Celtic going, and so that they ultimately avoided administration in the mid-1990s, and he supported Fergus McCann's takeover of the club. And it was Dermot Desmond who said, "In our darkest days, John Keane alone delivered funding. He was a humble man of few words." Excuse me, but when he did speak, there were pearls of wisdom. And John Keane himself was a Celtic supporter, loved the club. He just said administration was unthinkable. It would have been a slur upon the name of the club. Now, Ryan, you talk about club saviours, but John Keane was certainly one of them. He was, as I say, a lifelong Celtic supporter, and he served as a non-director of Celtic for over 20 years. And in 2013, he was also named honorary chairman. I'm glad that they recognised his role that he played. I think every Celtic supporter, Ryan, owes John Keane a debt of gratitude. In fact, I think it's a debt that we could never repay. And the Celtic Football Club that we all love and celebrate today is largely because of John Keane. He loved the club with his heart and soul. And he probably wouldn't thank me for this, but I think his name should be shouted from the rooftops from here on in, Ryan, because they say he was a quiet man, a few words, but I think he should be lauded and celebrated, and there should be some tribute to John Keane, I think, somewhere along the line in the future of Celtic's thinking, whether that be some kind of statue, or I really do believe that John Keane should have some memorial at Celtic Park along the Celtic Way, or wherever they want to place it. But just before you come in, say it's on John Thompson's tombstone. They never die who live in the hearts they leave behind. I think every Celtic supporter would say, God bless John Keane. He'll never walk alone.
Yeah, absolutely. Such an important key figure in Celtic being, and maintaining that name. Very dark days. I wasn't there personally, but I've heard all about the 90s, and you hear how dark they were for Celtic. But they came out of the other end because of the selfless actions of people digging into their own pockets and saving the club that they love. They are supporters. They are the supporters of the highest kind. They supported the club when it needed to be supported, and it was on its knees, basically. People like Fergus McCann, John Keane, these people, they deserve to be shouted from the rooftops. I'm hoping that Celtic can maybe do something for his family on Flag Day. Maybe they go and unfurl the flag, but he deserves an ovation because what was it, over £1 million of his own money?
Put in over £1 million of his own money, Ryan. He lodged it with the bank.
I know that not everybody has that money in order to just give out like that, but to give his own money like that and to save the club. He wasn't the only one. There was other people that helped, but a massive part in Celtic staying afloat, so we can only thank him, and we can point to the success of today with the sacrifices that people made yesterday. So, yeah, rest in peace to John Keane, a real massive figure, a quiet figure, but a massive figure in the restoration of Celtic. And you can owe Celtic's current success and dominance to the money that they paid back in the day.
Yeah, huge figure in the modern day history of the club, Ryan. Basically, huge figure, and like every Celtic supporter and the present manager spoken about, there's a humility in the way they work. Don't think anybody's been more humble than John Keane, who never wanted anything for it, and wasn't really never courted publicity. Was kind of, when people mentioned his name, he always played it down. So a wonderful, wonderful man by all accounts. Never had the pleasure and privilege of meeting him, but I'm sure if I did, we'd have got on well. And rest in peace, John Keane, and we send our condolences in the Celtic way to his family. And as you say, hopefully something like that can get arranged. Maybe like his family unfurl the flag. That would be a wonderful touch, methinks.
Yeah, a really sad weekend for football in general, especially, and I know it's nothing to do with Celtic, but the passing of Kevin Campbell was a real shocker, as well as the former Livingston and Millwall goalkeeper Sarkic that passed away too. It was a real, as much as it was a celebration of football with the Euros beginning and Copa America starting soon as well. It was a real sad one, hearing two deaths really that shocked, as well as John Keane. So it's in moments like these that the football community really come together, I think, and it's the tributes have been brilliant over the past couple of days, and you hope that they continue and the memory of these people continues to be remembered. But yeah, it was a sad news for those three individuals.
I think John Keane's memory will live long forever, Ryan. Let's be honest. He stepped up to the plate when a lot of people promised to and didn't deliver, but John Keane certainly delivered. So yeah, just thought, excuse me, just thought it was worthwhile taking time out to mention that and honour him. And as I say condolences to his family at this sad time. Now, Ryan, you've put on the headline there: Celtic's £34 million valuation of Matt O'Reilly. Is it a realistic number or pie in the sky? We always say that the players are only worth how much a club want to bid for them, but I think Celtic are quite within their rights to place a figure like that upon them, because Matt O'Reilly is an excellent player. And if you watched Denmark yesterday, then you'd have been the first to turn around and say, could Matt O'Reilly have made a difference? I think every Celtic supporter will say, yeah, he could have.
I put out a tweet yesterday, and there was a lot of detractors in the tweet, and I think the one similarity was that a lot of these supporters were all supporters of the one team, and this one team in particular is a team in which Matt O'Reilly had a lot of success against last season. So they're probably as good a character of Matt O'Reilly, or knowing Matt O'Reilly's character, than the rest of us, to be honest. But I just felt that Matt O'Reilly would have been so useful in that game yesterday, particularly in the second half. I think people know that Christian Eriksen has only probably got about 50-60 minutes in his legs to play first team football. He's that age. The fact that he's even playing football is a miracle in itself when you think about what happened in the last Euros. So the fact that he scored yesterday was a great sight. I loved that for the football world as a whole. I just think somebody like Matt O'Reilly could have taken the game by the scruff of the neck yesterday. And by the end of it, I watched the Denmark-Slovenia game. Denmark were holding on at the end because Slovenia were really fancy. They needed somebody that was calm on the ball, and I think that could have been Matt O'Reilly. Now, hindsight's a wonderful thing, watching these games and saying, "Oh, Matt O'Reilly would have been good." But you've got to call up these players, and I think that Celtic's valuation of Matt O'Reilly, if this is true, 34 million, is a fair valuation, because I see loads of players in different leagues, Ukrainian leagues, Russian leagues, etc., getting put these prices on them, and I think Celtic should start valuating their players in that sort of vein, in that mould, because this is inflation is a real thing, and it's a real thing in football too. So the prices have got to go up, and the interest, especially with Matt O'Reilly, 23 years old, Danish international, even though he's not playing for the national team at the moment. Celtic's best player last season by a country mile, in my opinion, and he's only going to get better as well. So 34 million, I think they'll get 34 million for Matt O'Reilly this summer if he goes. I think it'll be somewhere in between the 25 and 34 that's been talked about, somewhere in that, maybe 28, 29, that sort of figure. But I do think they'll get good money if Matt O'Reilly has to leave the club in the summer, and he's their most sellable asset and their best asset too, and he showed that on the pitch last season.
He most certainly did it. I think every Celtic supporter watching that Denmark game yesterday would have come to the conclusion that he could have made a difference. So we shall see. But yeah, I mean, lots of comments coming in, Ryan, about Matt O'Reilly, so I'll just flick a few of them up. Give me a second here. Yep. First one, Charlie Duran. He's worth 34 million easy. Celtic can afford to play hardball, can also afford to wait a year to sell him unless Matt's in the huff. Thomas Gallagher. Like 34 million is a bargain. Double that figure, says Thomas Gallagher. Kaiser, morning Kaiser. He's worth 46 million. And
he would be if he's down south.
P. McLaughlin coming in saying I feel 30 million plus would be justified had O'Reilly been showcasing himself at the Euros. I get the impression that action scuppered Celtic's chances of that kind of fee, but we shall see. We shall see. And Jerry Ross saying, don't think Matt has said he's unhappy at Celtic. Let's hope he stays. I think we all hope he stays, I've got to be honest. And Les D coming in. Happy third year anniversary in TCW, Tony. Thank you very much. That's really kind. It took me unawares the other day. I was blissfully unaware, Ryan, that I celebrated my third year anniversary.
It flies me having fun, Tony.
That's exactly what it is. So yeah, Matt O'Reilly, PMG saying not less than 40 million or keep him at Celtic Park. So lots of people having their say, Ryan, on Matt O'Reilly, but we all know how good he is. And Thomas Gallagher saying, put it this way, if Matt O'Reilly was one of the top 5 leagues, he'd be valued at 100 million plus. That's what you're saying as well, isn't it? He would be, wouldn't he? Henrik Malarson says you're getting almost unlimited potential with Matt O'Reilly. He's fantastic now, but in a more skilled league, he will improve exponentially. He would have improved had he gone to that tournament. And how Casper Humeland can't have spotted that or noticed that or saw that is beyond me, but I guess he's not there, so there's no point in crying about it, is there?
Nah, the decision's been made now, and it's not as if they could bring him in if an injury was to occur. Not that I'm wishing any injury on Denmark players at all. I wouldn't play like that whatsoever. But it just feels like they've shot themselves in the foot, Denmark, in my opinion. And I know there was a lot of detractors in my tweet yesterday, but you've got to recognise that Matt O'Reilly was the form player last season, especially in midfield in the Scottish Premiership. It was a joy to watch him in those real pressure moments as well. This is why I would, and I might be a tad biased in saying that he should have been player of the season or player of the year, because he also did it in the tough moments as well. I think that there's not enough talk about doing it in the big moments. Yes, numbers can be good, and I know Shankland got a lot of goals last season. He got goals in big games too, and you know, with his goal record for Hearts, there is definitely a case for him being player of the year. I know I've kind of went back to this when the award's been given out about a month ago, but in terms of Matt O'Reilly doing it when the chips are down, and you know, it's the Glasgow derbies and it's cup finals and it's cup semi-finals, and he's showing up every game and he's doing the things, he's getting goals, he's getting assists, he's also getting on the ball. Why didn't Denmark call up somebody like Matt O'Reilly who can do all these things? They've got an aging squad. Understand why they've got guys like Højbjerg, Thomas Delaney, Christian Eriksen, because these are trusted lieutenants that have been through 2-3 tournaments. But you've got to prepare for the future too. And I think Matt O'Reilly not being in that squad, it mystifies me, but you know, if it keeps him here a season longer, then I won't be complaining, put it that way.
It was a travesty for Matt O'Reilly personally. I think a lot of people read too much into the fact he had a slight dip mid-season, didn't he? Mm-hmm. Very slight, but you can say that. But my goodness, he dragged himself out of that very quickly, didn't he? But yeah, I think, as I say, I've not resigned myself to the fact that he will leave. I genuinely think that he might actually stay for another year. The manager might talk him into it, and the great thing about him is that he's a consummate professional and he's never rocked the boat. He's never made any rumblings or noises about moving on. He's always said he's perfectly happy. Every time he's gone to represent Denmark, he keeps getting asked the question, you don't think your talents are suited to a higher level? And he's constantly told them he's at a big club and he's playing in the Champions League. And, you know, so they can say what they like about our league, Ryan, you know, but Matt O'Reilly's here at the minute, he's happy, and he's still been handsomely rewarded as well financially. So, as I said on Friday, I'm at the what will be stage with Matt O'Reilly. If he goes with a blessing, and if he stays, then it's a winner for Celtic, isn't it? So, all good with that. I'm happy with that. Now,
Celtic
Ryan,
are in a
another
strong position here.
yeah,
Basically,
correct.
yeah.
Yeah. Now, another thing that caught our eye, just we were talking about it just before as we came on air, Flavius Danilic, Red Bull Salzburg on loan defender. Red Bull Salzburg, he's on loan from Salernitana. Red Bull Salzburg have declined to take up the offer, haven't they? On the option, the pay as you go, loan option to buy clause in his contract, which now makes him a huge person of interest for Celtic, doesn't it?
It's massive, yeah, and it's good to hear that Celtic have been linked with a couple of defenders at this point in time. Scott McKenna's also getting linked too. Probably will be starting for Scotland next time against Switzerland on Wednesday, so we'll be able to get an even better look at him on Wednesday due to Ryan Porteous' challenge on Ilkay Gundogan, whatever you want to call that. I don't know if it was a challenge or it was a really, really awful. Yeah, it was an awful, awful challenge on Gundogan. But Scott McKenna has been linked. Also, Flavius Danilic has been linked. Salzburg have not taken up their option to buy on the player, which was quite surprising. And I was reading a couple of Salzburg fans that were talking about it, saying, I don't know why they've not taken up the option to buy, because they had him for 6 months, played him at right back, not really a right back, but he played in that position. But when he's played in centre back, he's looked impressive. So a couple of mystified Salzburg fans, which is always a good sign. You know, you want to be seeing that. You don't want to be seeing a player that's not getting their option to buy taken up, and the fans celebrating that. So the fact that they're disgruntled over that is a good sign, and a showing that he has the right sort of profile for Celtic. Might even be playing today against France. You know, it's a tough assignment against France.
But you'll be tuning in for that one alone just to watch him if he is playing now. But I mean, that we would all have watched it anyway, but I think it's taken on increased significance and relevance because we want to see this guy, if he plays, what he's like.
Yeah, it's probably the sort of thing you want him to have a 6 out of 10. You want him to just be going thinking about Mbappe scored a couple of goals anyway, just so that the price doesn't get inflated too much. I think France will win that game anyway, but be interested to see if he is a starter, you know, because he's got four caps for Austria. He's the right sort of profile of player, and I think if he is a person of interest for Celtic, as I believe he is now, then Celtic should be going for that profile of player. Red Bull Salzburg do not scout these players if they're not ready to make the first team. There must be something else to do with him not getting signed. There might be somebody in the academy that's just a better option for Salzburg going forward. But yeah, I think it's a move that Celtic should make. Why not both, actually? Because if you're going to be getting rid of Kobayashi, potentially Lagerbielke and Nawrowski, then you might need 2 defenders. And I think having that solid base of having Danilic and Scott McKenna would really give Brendan Rodgers good headaches instead of the bad headaches he had last season in defence.
You mentioned Scott McKenna. I put the link into the group chat, guys. Spoke to Willie Miller about Scott McKenna yesterday, or certainly went up on the site yesterday. Did very well on the socials, to be fair. Willie Miller just giving an appraisal of Scott McKenna and saying that it's a no-brainer for Celtic to sign him on a free transfer. It's on the site, you can have a look at it. Willie Miller was terrific. Spoke very highly of him. And and I'd like to think that Willie Miller knows a thing or 6 about defending Ryan, eh?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Aberdeen legend. Am I right in saying that he played under Sir Alex Ferguson?
He did indeed, yes. He won the European Cup Winners' Cup 1983 against Real Madrid.
Yeah, I know some of my history.
That famous one-handed lift of the trophy that Willie Miller liked to do, ingrained
what a player.
Brilliant player.
If Alex Ferguson trusts you at the back, then you know you're a good defender. So I'm pretty sure he's got a good handle on what makes a good defender. And some of his words towards Scott McKenna, I read the piece yesterday. Some of the words towards Scott McKenna is exactly the profile of player you would want Celtic to have. And it just so happens it's a bonus that he has admitted in the past that he's a Celtic fan. So, you know, I know it's not worked sometimes in the past with Celtic fans joining the club. I think Shane Duffy's probably the biggest example, but there's other factors that go along with that. With Scott McKenna, I think it's about as easy, an open an open goal as you can get, to be
Yeah,
honest. I think he's just a solid defender, and he would do a job for Celtic alongside Carter Vickers.
very much so. Now, the goalkeeper links don't seem to be going away, Ryan, either.
This one doesn't go away.
Lavakovic, yes,
Yeah.
has been linked again with Celtic. People actually saying that it's a done deal and all that kind of stuff, but until such things become concrete. But I mean, it's been going on in the background for a long time, Ryan, isn't there? Are you now at the no smoke without fire stuff, or do you still think that it's? I know you like him, and we've been touting him for a while,
It's
but
not going to happen, this one.
it's not going to happen. Yeah, you.
I would be very
Those
surprised.
guys,
I'd be
yeah,
delighted. You know, Croatia's number one. He's been number one for a good while now. I've been
yeah,
a big fan of his for a good while. And if Celtic were to bring him in, then I think that'd be a massive statement of intent. Do I think they should have signed him last season when he was available? Absolutely. Because players like this don't come around often that are available. Fenerbahce came in. They've obviously got money. I don't understand because he's had a good season in Fenerbahce by all accounts. So I
yeah.
don't understand why Fenerbahce would want to sell unless he wants to move personally. He'll get Champions League football if he was to join Celtic. You know, he's used to the big bright lights of European football. He's doing it right now for Croatia against. He's conceded 3 against Spain, but Spain were very good on Saturday afternoon or evening. Just a really good goalkeeper. Exactly the kind of calibre that I would be wanting Celtic to look for. And at 31, he's still relatively young as well. He's in very much the prime years of his career. Yeah, that would be my number one choice. But whether it happens or not, it's a completely different story. I don't think it will, but I would be pleasantly surprised if it did.
Thank you to the 600 people that are joining us live. Excellent numbers, guys. We appreciate your company. Appreciate you getting involved in the chat.
Sorry, he's 29. He's 29, not 31. So he's even more. So he's an even bigger target now that he's under 30.
You've aged him 2 years, since the Celtic link.
It's probably what Glasgow will do to him. He'll be 31 by the time of next
Very
season.
much so. He'll have grey hair or no hair by the time he comes to Glasgow, if that's ever an eventuality. But yeah, indeed. But yeah, listen, it's there's lots of things bubbling away on the surface here, Ryan. Danilic is interesting. Scott McKenna, even more interesting, So I mean, you do assume that Celtic are, working away in the background, and there'll be things announced if and when those deals are forced over the line. But from reading between the lines, they're certainly not doing nothing, Ryan. They're not sitting on their hands. There's lots of stuff going on.
Here's a wee question, and I'll throw it back to you, Tony. Do you think there's
Go on.
more of a look now at European teams or like European countries opposed to maybe Asian players and Asian teams just with the return of Brendan Rodgers? It seems as if there's more of a, and I know Ange Postecoglou brought in European players too, like Starfelt, Juranovic, but he also brought in the best Asian players in Hatate, Kyogo, Iwata, etc., Maeda. And then he had O, who wasn't really a success. Who looks as if he's going out the way, but he was a success in Korea. Do you think there's more of a spotlight now for Celtic on these European teams once again, like it was the first time around with Brendan Rodgers? He seems to. I mean, Danilic, he's playing in Italy, but he was also playing in Austria. You've got Lavakovic, who's playing in Turkey, but he's Croatian. So all of a sudden, there seems to be more of a spotlight on European players once again. I think maybe that's just an admittance that you need that as well. You need the strength, that sort of strength for the Champions League, having these veterans coming in that know the European game.
I also think when Ange Postecoglou signed those players, he took a quick look and realised right there and then what Celtic needed. He told you himself he envisaged players playing in the Celtic team. So he knew that those guys could come in because he'd watched them, he'd coached some of them. So Celtic knocked it off in that sense because they, as I said before, Ange took the head of recruitment, scouting and manager role. He merged them all into one when he signed the players that he got from Asia first time round. Now, you've always said as well, and I think everybody believes that, we should not stop scouting the Asian market because there's clearly players there, right? But yeah, yep. I agree with that wholeheartedly, Joe. But we have to keep tabs in the J League and the K League. That's a given because we have had success there. But I think they have to be like Iwata as well, like MVPs, Player of the Year, so that they can come in and make a difference. They have to be guys who are vetted strongly, and vetted them strongly the first time, the likes of Kyogo, Dyson Maeda, and Hatate. So you knew exactly what they could bring, because you knew exactly that's what Celtic needed. So you want players that can come in and make a difference right away if you're scouting those markets. But I just think Celtic were always going to say revert to type, but target European type players. And there's lots of scope in the Euros for watching players who play for European clubs and are not necessarily, top of the bill. So that's where I think you do your homework, Ryan. You watch every country in this tournament, and you draw up a list of guys who you think, one, they're affordable. Can we get them? Their contract situation. They should really actually know this before they go and watch them. I've got to be honest.
They probably do.
Yeah, well, they should. And if they don't, then that's sadly lacking. But so I'm looking at others. Like today, I'll watch Austria. I watched Slovenia last night, and I'm thinking, could anybody do a job watching Serbia? Could anybody do a job for Celtic? Because that's what you do. You're tuned in now, and you're picking out players from certain positions and thinking, do you see him in a Celtic shirt fulfilling that role? So I'm starting to do that myself. So I think it's only natural that if we're doing it as supporters of the club, as journalists and whatever, and people that offer our opinion, surely what you have as a recruitment team in a moment without a head of it, a scouting department should be doing the same thing, but should have the knowledge at their fingertips of all these players that are at that tournament and the ones that are gettable, in my opinion.
There was also murmurings, and that's all it was. It's only rumours that I've heard in various sources, but Celtic were also looking at the right wing option for Serbia last night. Zivkovic, who plays at PAOK.
Yeah.
That's the Greek league that they're looking at. They've had success in the past from the Greek league too. So, all these, Palma last season came from the Greek league. So, although he had an up and down season, there's players that can make an impact from these leagues. But Celtic are going to be linked with so many players over the next few weeks, because they know, people know, teams know, journalists know, the media knows that Celtic need players for next season for a four-pronged assault on all the competitions that they're playing in. They're playing in the League Cup, Scottish Cup, Champions League, as well as the Premiership. So it's going to be a long old season, and Celtic need players that are able to last the distance.
So there's a rule of thumb, right? Lewis Graham comes in. I liked Pavlovic for Serbia last night. Right, so you're starting
defender.
So you're starting to pick out players, right? We all are. We're all doing it, So Bijal, the centre back with Slovenia, looked really handy, right? So that's the kind of thing I'm talking about, Ryan. We're doing it ourselves from our living room, right? We're not part of the scouting network, but if we can sit there and do it and think that way, then Celtic have all this. They should be armed to the teeth with this knowledge, so they should be able to sort of go in and say, right, he's available. That's the kind of thing I'm saying. And P. McLaughlin was in. Slovenia right wing Zivkovic was quiet last night. He's usually good as well. He was saying, that was a player you've just mentioned.
That Pavlovic that they're talking about, guess who he plays for as well? He plays for Red Bull Salzburg. So he's probably the one that's playing instead of Danilic at this moment. Or maybe he played alongside Danilic. I'd need to have a wee look at that. But just shows you, teams like Salzburg, they'll get their ear to the ground with these players. They know when they're coming through. He looked quite good last night. Serbia looked quite decent last night too.
And if that's the case, Ryan, that's the team that Celtic need to be. If Red Bull Salzburg are getting these guys, long before they come to prominence because they see something in them, and that's a team I want Celtic to be. Go and get these guys, go and get them when their career trajectory is starting to go on the up, same way they did with Matt O'Reilly, I guess. So. And I don't think that's beyond a club like Celtic with the resources to be able to be that team, is it?
It should. Celtic should be that sort of team, but the difference is then, and regardless of what people think about Red Bull and their sponsorship, they've got teams all over the world, scouting networks. It's the same as Manchester City with the City Group. They've got teams and affiliate groups all over the world, and they'll keep their ears to the ground on talent and scouting, and they'll pass on this information between each other. Red Bull are notorious for having the best scouting systems in the world, or one of the most forward thinking. They get scouts in Africa that get players from a young age, scouts in Asia, South America, Europe. Look at Salzburg's B team, for example, Liefering, and they play in the second division of Austria. And I've made this point a couple of times. Is Austria, Switzerland? I get the two mixed up all the time. Austria, Salzburg.
Yeah.
Yep, got it. Austria, Salzburg. Just in case I got them mixed up.
No.
Liefering play in the second division, and the amount of different nationalities in the B team in the second division are playing football, 17, 18-year-olds, is incredible. As much as I want Celtic to do that, if they're going to be like that, then they have to go full. They can't go half measures. It has to be full measures if they go for things like that, and that costs a lot of money. So I want Celtic to be effective in their scouting, but they'll have to be effective in their scouting without taking so many risks. Red Bull Salzburg employ so many players all over the world. They send them all over the world because they've got the money. They're bankrolled by Red Bull. Red Bull are absolutely minted. So yeah, Celtic are going to have to do a streamlined version of it, but they need to get. The problem is they can't afford to have any misses. It needs to be hits when they bring in talents, and that's why it's more difficult.
Yeah, John almost said saying back to chatting about projects, lad. We need first team ready. Not very aware we need first team ready, but there's first team ready players playing at the Euros right now. That's what I'm talking about too. That we should be all over. You know what I mean, Ryan? That can't say that there's not players there that Celtic cannot identify and who are first team ready, playing for their international teams and could make a difference to Celtic.
Unfortunately for Celtic, they need to find both. They need to find projects that are first team ready. I think the problem that people have with these project players, nobody would complain if the young players come in and they instantly command a first team place. Like Frimpong, who took everybody by surprise. It took the club by surprise too when he came in. I think they watched him for 45 minutes in a B team game and was like, he's got to be playing for the first team. And now he's playing for the Netherlands and Bayer Leverkusen and Europe respectively. The thing, these projects, they need to be projects, but they also need to be first team ready too. And it's difficult to have the two.
Yeah,
Celtic need to develop their players, but they need first team ready players as well. But these project players have also got to make a difference. It's very difficult, but it's all about finding the right players that are 19, 20, 21 years old that are projects, but can also impact the first team too. Finding that medium, that happy medium, is difficult, but that's a job that the scouting team have got to get better at.
Yeah, Plunge McNugget coming in here. Maybe Brendan is looking at the Euros for players, and that's why the media don't have a clue what's going on. I wouldn't say that the media don't have a clue what's going on. I think some of them have got their ear to the ground. Some are better than most, but yeah, I'm sure Brendan is looking at the Euros for players. We're all looking at the Euros for players, are we not? And throwing in recommendations. So
yeah, the striker up front of France could do a job, eh?
Yes, indeed. Now, just before we finish, Ryan, didn't want to talk about it too much, but that was a bruising one on Friday for Scotland. And our central midfielder, Callum McGregor, came in for a bit of, shall we say, over-the-top criticism, or studs-up criticism.
Celtic captain, Callum McGregor.
Celtic captain, Callum McGregor, according to one particular pundit who didn't call him by his name, but referred to him as the Celtic captain twice, I believe. But hey, there you go. But yeah, it wasn't pretty to watch, was it?
No, it wasn't. It was a real masterclass by Germany, but it was self-destruction from Scotland at the same time. You cannot give players like Florian Wirtz, Jamal Musiala any more encouragement than they've already got. They're the host nation. They were kicking off the tournament. And my goodness, those two 21-year-olds have got a future in the game. They were absolutely incredible on Friday night, especially Musiala. The fact that he's actually got eligibility to play for England, I think they've given the rest of the European world a chance by splitting them up and putting one to Germany and Jude Bellingham to England, because the two of them would be absolutely frightening. But just on Scotland, it was a bad night for every player, not just Callum McGregor, who, he has standards and he didn't hit those standards, but he wasn't the only one. And I don't think he deserved to be completely singled out you know, if you're going to pass the blame at people, you know, look at the goalkeeper who I think could have saved 2 of the goals. That, you know, really really poor. Ralston, I don't want to go in on him too deep, but maybe, you know, that he was getting outclassed out there, unfortunately for him. But you know, he wasn't the only one. You know, there was Premier League players in that game. You know, Kieran Tierney, Andy Robertson, who also didn't hit the standards, but I don't think they get nearly as much of the blame for things. It's opinions at the end of the day, but I just think the whole team struggled, not just certain individuals. I think 1 to 11 struggled on the night, and it was down to both Scotland's problems and the fact that Germany are actually pretty good under Julian Nagelsmann, which a lot of people didn't think, but I think everybody thinks now that they're a pretty good team.
Yeah. Steve Clarke also held his hand up yesterday and said he could have set the team up better, and he hopes to set the team up better for Switzerland on Wednesday. He has to set the team up better for Switzerland on Wednesday, and it'll be interesting to see what he does, Ryan, in terms of team formation, and if any of those players who were poor on Friday night get axed or are rotated or whatever you want to call it, or find themselves on the subs bench.
It's going to be a difficult one on Wednesday as well, because I watched Switzerland, as I said before, and they looked really good against Hungary. I think if Scotland are going to have any chance at picking up points in this group, or picking up 3 points, it's against Hungary, because by all accounts, and I think Hungary will be better in the second and third game. I thought they looked absolutely spooked on the big stage, which was quite surprising, because I've got some really good players, especially Soboslai, who did show his class at one point with a good assist, but they really struggled. If Scotland are going to have joy, then it might be against them in the third match, but it's going to have to be a battle on Wednesday. Switzerland have came out and said that they expect to see the real Scotland when they face. It's going to be a big game at 8 o'clock on Wednesday night, and I'm really looking forward to it. But Scotland are going to have to be on their A game, because Switzerland look up for this tournament. They've got real veterans that have done it in the group stages before. You know, they're bringing on Mbolo, who's been injured for large spells, who's scoring, you know, chipped goals over the goalkeeper. Granit Xhaka, who's just coming off the Bayer Leverkusen result, or the Bayer Leverkusen season. They get star players all over. They've even got Fabian Rieder, who was linked with Celtic.
Yeah, that's
last
right.
season. He came off the bench. He had a good chance to score, and it squandered his
I
opportunity.
was watching him closely.
He does look a pretty good player.
And a kind of bullseye. Here's what you could have won scenario, but you know, so just doing things like that, Ryan, when you see players that were maybe linked with the club, or you want to see if they're how well they perform, you know, that kind of stuff. But yes, indeed. Now we will reconvene, Ryan, tomorrow. Yeah,
I didn't realise we had so much to talk about. I was actually thinking, what are we going to talk about this morning? But we always manage it, even when, you know, you've got the Euros on, you've got potential transfer links too. There's always something. We thank everybody in the comments as well for keeping us going. You know, keeping us on our toes as well.
Today was an example of silk pus out of sow's ear, as they say, Ryan. You know, we come on, we have what in Greeks a tabula rasa, a blank canvas, as it's known, but we somehow managed to fashion something out of it. But guys, you always keep us going, and we'll be here right through the summer till real football comes back, as they say, Ryan. Celtic, but it's never a dull day covering Celtic. We'll be back tomorrow, guys, same time, same place, to talk more Celtic. Maybe a wee bit of Scotland thrown in with the Celtic players that are involved, but no doubt there'll be more transfer links, Ryan. Hopefully, might even get a signing, because the transfer window's open, isn't it? I believe.
Yep, I think we need to point to the sign. You know, the window is open, but we are open for business, or we should be open for business. But yeah,
as long as Celtic think it's open, but it is open. It's officially open.
One thing I would say is that if this means that they're taking a bit of time to scout the right people, then I've got no problem with that, considering the players that came in last season that didn't make an impact. If they're taking a bit longer for these players to come in, then I'd much rather they take their time and they get it right, rather than rushing in and signing players for the sake of it. At the end of the day, Celtic won the double last season, and you know they need to be in a position to strengthen, get rid of the deadwood. Already seems to be the case with some players leaving, but bring in genuine quality for an all-out assault next season on 4 competitions.
Indeed. Now, whatever you're doing today, enjoy the Euros. 2 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 8 o'clock. For those who didn't know, there's 3 games a day for the foreseeable. Ryan's face lights up at that. prospect, doesn't it, sir?
Always, but I'm doing scouting as well. You know, it's scouting, seeing any potential Celtic players, because I
Throwing them
guess
out there on
all the
social media. Yeah.
yeah. We'll see how it goes. We've got to look in games like Ukraine v Romania as well, because all of a sudden there could be players that can do a job, and they might not to get them for cheap, but there might be players that burst onto the scene that might look for a move after the Euros. And it's players like this that they should identify.
That's the games where the nuggets are, Ryan. Always. It's not the big fancy teams, because we know all about their star players. Just watching the likes of Albania, as you say, Ukraine, those kind of teams. So we shall see what happens. But thank you for your company, guys. Appreciate it. Hope that was a enjoyable enough Monday. Happy enough Monday, wasn't it, Ryan?
Yeah, I bet it's happy a Monday as you can get, considering Scotland get beat 5-1 on the Friday. But I think we did well, considering. I think there's cause for optimism in certain places, especially down to Celtic. So, yeah, looking forward to what the rest of the week has in store. Hopefully some more transfer links, maybe some more movement. You know, it's all good hearing about links, but we want to hear movement now between players leaving the club and players joining the club. So, yeah, all steams ahead.
We say thank you to MPH Group and Weissman Boilers for their continued sponsorship of the pod, and just direct you to the strapline, guys. It's £4 for 4 months. Hit that button, www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe, and we'll see you all again tomorrow. Take care.
Thanks, guys.